Welcome to the Commodore 64 Crypt. In this one installment, we're gonna have a look at a game that was much mailing on the NES, but definitely had an interesting life on the Commodore 64, which is Bop and Rumble. This game is also known as Bad Street Brawler, and this title screen is perfectly accurate to what you have to do in the entire game. You're Hulk Hogan going out in the street, putting your nose in fat people while having to fight gorillas and basketball players. Yep, this is really what it's all about. Honestly, this game is kind of amazing, mainly because this is one of those very rare games where it's much better on the Commodore 64 than it was on the NES, despite having way less capabilities. As for the gameplay, yeah, it's a side-scrolling fighter which is platform-based, and your opponents are old men with swords, those shadowy dogs, or whatever the hell they're supposed to be. Oh yeah, speaking of dogs. I'm not entirely sure what's going on in those streets, but they're certainly bad indeed. Why are all of these gorillas here? You have to fight old grannies? Yeah, old grannies that use their purses as a weapon. That's definitely something. And that's one of the parts where you can see that this is way more colorful and, in a way, kind of funny than the NES version, because instead you just had to fight circus freaks or whatever the hell they were supposed to be, instead of having the most stupid kind of enemies out there. I mean, it's like you're just the most serious guy and you're just having a merry-go-round with old women swinging them around the place. Oh my god, this game is so dumb. I love it. Well, I love it to a certain point because unfortunately it's not going to be like this the entire time. But one aspect of this game which is nice is that from level to level your moves change. And yeah, it all controls very well in my opinion, despite having only one fire button on the controller. Basically, in order to attack, you must press the fire button in any direction. Whenever you push backwards, you do this roundhouse kick, which is like the best move of the entire game. And your other moves just change depending on the levels. But yeah, this move definitely has kind of a delay, but it hits pretty hard, it has a very good range. And all in all, this is the one move that you'll be using for pretty much the entire game. So basically, that's the main dynamic that the game uses in order to keep things interesting. From each level, your moves will always change, and therefore you have to adapt to the new gameplay situation that it occurs. And usually the enemies tend to start getting a little bit more aggressive too. For instance, these old men with swords, they definitely become more mean to the later stages. In level 3, they're still pretty mild, but you can be sure that they're going to mess you up. And while all of the move changes, the reason, once again, why the roundhouse kick is probably the best move is that this is the one constant in the game. This is the one move you'll always have. And yeah, you have to get rid of those bombs because if it's on the screen before you can wipe it out and throw it off the screen, well, you'll take heavy damage no matter where you are on the screen, so you have to be careful. But the body flap, or I'm not sure how you call that because I'm no expert in fighting whatsoever, but it's definitely a good move also because it allows you to pretty much go through the defenses of every enemy. And yeah, the other new enemy that this level introduces, breakdancers. And these guys definitely have a mean punch, and if you get caught in their track while they breakdance in you, you spin out of control and you pretty much become impossible to control. Also, yeah, that gorilla suddenly grew human limbs. I never knew that this thing will be any possible. But yeah, this level has my favorite move of the entire game. You can pick up enemies and just throw them off the screen like that. Why? Because. And yeah, grandma can fly. Just ask your grandmother to do this party trick the next time that you'll meet her. The fun thing also with this one move is that it allows you to disable any enemy that you want to get rid of, especially like the breakdancers, which are such a huge threat. The gorillas also are an enemy that you want to get rid of, mainly because they hit like fucking trucks. They're pretty basic enemies, they just waltz by doing their own business, but if they punch you, you take 3 damage. Unfortunately, Hulk Hogan / Duke Davis, because apparently that's his name, or at least it's his name in the NES version, but at this point, we've already concluded that this game has nothing to do with the NES version, because none of the enemies behave the same. You didn't have this fat guy in the NES version neither, I think. And yeah, gorillas also will throw bananas at you, which definitely was another trick that they had up their sleeve. And yeah, these fat people are very threatening. Don't let them run over you, because apparently they don't only have body fat, they got a lot of muscles in there. No, why didn't you give me my heart? I really needed health. So now we have one of our major obstacles in terms of gameplay. The swordmen that just decide to wait and guard, because they're almost impossible to take care of without taking a hit. But first I need to get rid of this fat guy here, who acts pretty defensively, because if you try to attack him, he will back away. So quick moves usually are your best way of dealing with them, but it's pretty hazardous because, as you've seen, if you wait too long you get run over and you lose half of your health. This game unfortunately is not very forgiving. Alright, goodbye Grandma, we'll miss you. Yeah, what other game out there could you say, oh hey, I just picked up a grandma and threw her into the street for no freaking reason whatsoever. But yeah, the throw move definitely earns its stripes here, even though it got me killed by big ol' Lardson over here. I'm not sure that's his name, but I'll go with it. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't try to pick them up. Well, you will see there's more to these guys than meet the eye, or logic for that matter. So we have probably one of the better offensive moves of the game, despite the fact that it only deals 1 damage. We have a flying kick, and holy shit, it's good at taking care of everything. You stay far away from your opponent, you're pretty much impossible to hit. And yeah, that's probably the best offensive move that you have for this one level, because your other attack is incredibly slow. So yeah, that's the one reason why I do not want to pick them up. Yep. They're too fat, so you cannot pick them up. Unfortunately, you do not have enough upper body strength in order to take care of... Oh my goodness. I'm not doing very well over here. Yep, they double tagged me into a corner. Duke Davis was vanquished by body fat. A shameful Duke. So I figure at this point we're just gonna keep using this flying kick, because honestly, even though this one move is very cool, it's put you at great risk, mainly because it was very, very slow. So we have 2 options in order to take care of the fat guys. You can either use a roundhouse kick, but with that said, it's really tricky to land a hit with it because of the delay behind the move, or you can simply do this, which is slower, but for the most part, it's a much safer approach, except when the hits decide to not register. Unfortunately, the hit detection of this game is pretty fickle at times, and it'll be a problem very soon. Honestly, at this point of the game is still pretty easy and approachable, because you keep having all of these new moves that can get you out of jams, and yeah, you can slam people down so hard that their entire torso and leg just phase through the asphalt. How badass are we? I don't know, I mean, we have all the makings of a badass, but in the end we're still getting vanquished by pitbulls, blind men that swing swords everywhere, and yeah, it looks like we've reached the end of our journey. But it doesn't really matter for this game, because on the main title screen you do have the option to choose a level that you start from, and that includes any level that you clear. So here we go, we're already starting back to level 5. Unfortunately, we have to restart the entire level, but that's just a small price to pay. Yeah, we've killed a bulldog by pitting it. And now here's the next new ridiculous enemy. An enemy that you never will see in a game today, because holy shit. That is some politically incorrect stuff we have over here. Yep, a tall basketball player, and yeah, that guy means business because his basketball deal a ton of damage. So we're gonna pick up that creep and shove him in the asphalt. He seems so non-phased about this. So what this game lacks in playability, it certainly makes up in the ridiculousness factor. And yeah, we have our first boss, Motorcycle Man. Now, watch how we kill him. Yep, only one hit, but if you don't hit him, then he runs you over and then you lose a lot of health. So, welcome to stage 6, which is where the game stops being fun altogether. The first reason why is that you have no new move for this one level. Instead, you just have the same moves than level 1. Minus the roundhouse kick. You know, the best attack of the entire game, so now you just have this weak stubby punch that honestly is not very reliable, and that usually just means that you get sliced up in the corner by blind people. But the main reason why it's getting really hard is that for some enemies you don't really have a good answer to them, like the swordmen that are in guard, and Mr. Breakdancer here, because for some reason your regular punch is barely too short in order to hit them. So in conclusion, what happens here is that you will die over and over again. Especially in circumstances like this one where there's absolutely nothing you can do. Level 6 is just going to be the one part of the game where you will die over and over again without being able to do much. So it's time to have this little montage of Duke Davis dying over and over again to hold people, breakdancers, dogs, and everything. And this is how the adventures of Duke Davis come to an end, by being dizzied by a breakdancer. So yeah, it's definitely an unusual game, definitely worth at least a play just in order to see all of the goofball gameplay and team enemies and everything. So, I hope you enjoyed it!